Okay, what's up? Factor the expressions. You're going to work on in this first assignment. In each of the two this week, I just have 4 problems for you to do. Okay, factor the expression x squared minus 2x minus 15. Remember, factor means you figure out what parentheses can multiply to this. It's like the opposite of the FOIL method. Okay, so what you're going to do then is make a table, and I would recommend you start putting a 1 if there's not a number there, and you go A, B, C, and you take 1 times negative 15. You're always going to take the A times the C, and that tells you what number you put on top of that table right there. So 1 times negative 15 is negative 15, so 15 negative. So we know that if we have a negative, we're trying to find out 2 factors that make negative 15. It's a positive times a negative, and the factors have to add to what the b is, so negative 2. So if I divide 15 by 1, that's going to be 15. But 1 plus negative 15 is not negative 2. If I divide 15 by 2, I get a decimal, so we don't put 2. If I divide 15 by 3, we get 5. So I'll put 3, 5. Okay, so 3 plus negative 5 is going to be negative 2, so I have my numbers right there. Okay. Now we're ready to go into the parentheses then once we find the 2 numbers. Now if your A is 1, you just get rid of it. Okay, that's already served its purpose. I just put the 1 there so I could take 1 times negative 15, but after I find the numbers, I get rid of the 1 and turn that back into just x to the second. So x to the second we know is x, and then we got plus 3 minus 5, and that's your answer right there. Okay, my next problem, we have x to the power 2 minus 10x plus 24. Remember, you want to figure out, factor means figure out what 2 parentheses make that. So make a table, because we have an A, a B, and a C, and you always want to take your A times your C to figure the number that goes up here. So 1 times 24 is 24, it's positive 24. Now this time we have a positive. So for 2 things to multiply to a positive, we need either a negative times a negative or a positive times a positive. What I usually do is I start with a negative times a negative, and then I'll switch them to positives if I have to, because we're adding to negative 10. So 24 divided by 1 is 24. If I add those, that's negative 25. If I divide 24 by 2, I get 12. Adding those gives you negative 14. 24 divided by 3 is 8. If I add those, that's negative 11. Now that's close, but close doesn't cut it, so we got to keep going. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So again, how you do this, you take the number you divided by, the number you divide 24 by goes here. The answer you got goes here. So negative 4, negative 6, does that add up to negative 10? Yep, it does, okay? So I circle those, then I go to my parentheses. So my A is 1, so it means if it's a 1, we can get rid of it, okay? So x to the, because 1x to the second is the same as x to the second, just like 1x and x mean the same thing. So x second can be x times x, and then minus 4 minus 6. So x minus 4 times x minus 6 is the answer. Okay, next problem. 4x to the second power minus 8x plus 3. So I want you to factor those 3 terms, write them into 2 parentheses. It's the same idea as like taking a 10 and writing it as 5 times 2. This time you're just taking a longer expression and writing it as something times something. Okay, now this is why I keep doing the ABC, because now you take A times C, 4 times 3, that's 12. Positive 12, so it'd be a negative times a negative. And I'm adding to try to get to negative 8. So 12 divided by 1 is 12. If I add those, negative 1 plus negative 12, that's negative 13. If I divide 12 by 2, I get 6. So I want to put 2 and 6. If we add those, that's negative 8. But we have a problem, okay? It's kind of a big problem too. But we can fix it with a little trick. Your a is not a 1, okay? It's form, so it can't be just x times x. Okay, x squared is x times x, but now x squared has an actual number other than a 1 in front of it. We have to deal with that. So what you're going to do is you're going to set up 2 parentheses above your answer, okay, above your answer. And you are going to start each parentheses with 4. You're going to go 4 and 4. And then you put x and x, not x to the second. You break the x to the second up. Then you put your minus 2, minus 6. Now we know this is wrong because 4x times 4x in the FOIL is 16x to the second, which is not what we have. Well, that's why we need to use a multiplication table, and if you don't have one, just Google it on an internet, okay? You need to divide these both by their GCF, so 4 and 2. Here's 2, there's 4, so I would divide that by 2, okay? That would be 2x minus 1, okay? Then 4 and 6. Here's 4, but there's no 6. Here's 4, here's 6, so that would be also be 2. We divide these by 2 as well. And that would be 2x minus 3. So this is the answer, 2x minus 1 times 2x minus 3. Because 2x times 2, don't write this down, just watch me do it. Because if I FOIL, take 2x times 2x, 2x times negative 3, and then negative 1, times 2x, and by negative 3, that's 4x to the second, negative 6x, negative 2x, and 3. So those add to make negative 8x, so I have 4x second minus 8x plus 3, which is the expression we started with. This is the answer, you don't have to do that, okay? So bottom line, if your a is not a 1, you make 2 parentheses above your answer, okay? And you start with that number. If that had been a 6, I would have went 6, 6. It's 4, so I go x, x, then minus 4x, 4x, minus 2, minus 6, and then I divide down. That trick will work every time. Okay, our next problem. 2x to the second power minus 13x minus 24. Okay, so again, I want to factor the expression, okay? These are my 2 answers. Okay, so I take 2 times negative 24. That's going to be negative 48. So it's a negative, so that's a positive times a negative, okay? And we're adding to try to get to negative 13. So 48 divided by 1 is 48. If I add those, that is not negative 13. If I divide 48 by 2, I get 24, okay? 2 and 24. Put the number you divided by and the number you got right there. Now let's add those. Nope. Now if I divide 48 by 3, I get 16. Add those. Bingo, okay, negative 13. But my a is not 1, okay, so I can't get rid of it. So I go above the parentheses and put a 2 and a 2, followed by an xx, and then the plus 3 minus 16 you got from your table. Okay, so 2 and 3, the greatest common factor is 1, so we would just leave that. You can divide it by 1, but it would just stay 2x plus 3, okay? Then 2 and 16, here's 2, here's 16, you can divide those, but those are both divisible by 2. So I divide by 2, and that would be x. If it's 1x, you just put x minus 8, and that's your answer, 2x plus 3 times x minus 8. No, I don't have the coronavirus. Okay, it's allergies. Okay. All right, so A, B, that's what factor means. You need the two parentheses. Okay, so I take 6 times negative 5. It gives me negative 30. So it's a negative, so we're thinking positive times a negative, and we're adding to try to get to plus 7. 30 divided by 1 is 30. I add those. That is not positive 7. 30 divided by 2 is 15. Again, to know the other number, you put what the answer to 30 divided by 2 is, 15. Add those. No. 30. What's 30 divided by 3? It's going to be 10. Okay. Now let's add those. 3 plus negative 10. Negative 7. Well, I'm good there. I have the right numbers. I just have the wrong sign. So if your sign is wrong, like that adds to negative 7, but we need it to add to plus 7, just switch the signs to the opposite way. Okay, that's all you have to do. See, because now I'll take negative 3 plus 10, and it's positive 7. So if you have the right number but the wrong sign on the number, just switch the signs to the opposite. Again, my A is not just 1, so I can't just get rid of it. So I go up here, and I go 6, 6, and then x, x, and then minus 3 plus 10. Okay, 6 and 3. That'd be 3, so I divide by 3. That's 2x minus 1, okay? 6 and 10. Well, here's 6, here's 10, so that'd be both divisible by 2, and that would be 3x plus 5. Okay. 2x minus 1 times 3x plus 5 is the answer to that problem. Okay, and then the last one. 8x to the power of 2 minus 14x plus 3. Okay, so 8 times 3 is 24. Okay, so I got 24, so we're adding to try to get to negative 14. Okay. So 24 divided by 1 would be 24. Oh yeah, the side, you have a positive up there, so it's a negative, negative. Okay. Add those, that's going to be negative 25. So that won't work. 24 divided by 2 would be 12, so I put 2, 12. If I add those, negative 14. Okay, got it. You don't switch the signs here because you want it to be negative 14. Okay, again, your A is not a 1, so you need to make 2 parentheses up here, so you can go 8, 8, x, x, minus 2, minus 12. Then you don't stop there, you got to divide down. So 2 and 8, I would divide both of those by 2. That would give me 4x minus 1, 8 and 12. Here's 8, you can't do 8. Here's 8, there's 12, so you do 4. So 2x minus 3. Okay, and there we go. 4x minus 1 times 2x minus 3. Okay, you have 4 problems to kind of work on your own. Shoot me an email if you're having some problems.